One 78th Avenue. I'm also a little bit upset. Now, this whole project started out when I was on council. We're pushing to have ball fields out there. Now, they got the grants and the ball fields have become secondary where all this is going on. And the locations have changed over time. Now the ball fields are secondary to whatever else is going inside there. And this is something that we definitely do not support. The ideas, I mean, it has to be done. We need it done. We have worked long and hard for it to get to this point. But again, the locations have changed, have morphed into something totally different from what we had envisioned and supported in the past. So I don't think that this L-shaped ball field is so in the future. We had 2 square fields at all times. And the location of the top right, I don't know how it's going to work. But it's just not what we have been supporting over time. So I hope that in the future we can do something better than this. And I can only say we have to go ahead. Time is of the essence, and we need to get something done. But it's not what we wanted. Thank you.
Thank you, Astor. Any other public comment? Vince?
I'm not privy to the plans, and I'm not criticizing the plans at all. My concern is the cost. This is in addition to the playground equipment that you passed,
Yes, it is.
and it's in addition to the money that you've spent or going to spend on the restrooms.
Yes, it is.
In other words, we're spending somewhere in the neighborhood of $300,000 to $400,000 on this park
Correct.
this year.
It's in the budget. It is in the budget. Yeah, Freddie?
Yeah, Vinny, all the money that we're spending, we have had some matching funds, but it's in the budget for this year. We're not overspending the budget at all. But one thing I think people are losing sight of, Emily's done them, and December's done them as much as can be done with the money that we got. We would love to be able to go in there and do everything you people want to do, but there's only so much money that we can do, and we're actually, it's just like Emily and I was talking beforehand, that the main thing we're trying to accomplish right now is that centerpiece. We want to get we got to get the playground in because we got a deadline there, but we want to get the pavilion and the bathroom in where at least you can start using something a little bit in that park. But then we're going to be running out of money pretty close once we get there. We would love to be able to go ahead and be able to do that part of it too, but we're going to have to find some money when we get there. We're
Right.
hoping we can do it. But and really, we're not anyway trying to do anything that the Parks Board said. We've tried to follow that as much as we could follow it, but it's then again, do you want to go in there and tear up all those trees, some of those trees, to do that other ball field when you don't know if the one ball field is going to be sufficient? You may put in one ball field and find that's sufficient. So why sacrifice a lot of trees right now if we don't have to? So there's a lot of decisions that these people have to make. They're not trying to do something for themselves. Everybody's got the same thing in mind. We're trying to do something for the kids out there, and that's what the whole thing is, just trying to get something moving the best way we can.
Right. Andy, I think I would make a couple of suggestions, recommendations. I think based on what we're talking about here, I think we all understand that this section that's in the northwest quadrant is what we're focusing on, and it has to get done. Some of the other areas, specifically where the ballparks are located and how they're positioned. I'll be honest with you that when I saw this plan, I was surprised where the ballparks were located too. It's different than the last time I had seen it. So, but on the other hand, I'm sure that there are reasons why they were put where they are. Freddie, similar to what you're saying, that based on where trees are and maybe where fill is, where I'm sure there were reasons for it. But our volunteers and our boards put in a lot of time, and they've come up with a lot of great ideas. And so I think the other thing I would recommend is that maybe we have since we're going to focus on that other section there, that on the discussion where the parks, where the ball fields themselves are going to be, I think maybe we need to have a joint discussion, somebody from Winningham and Fradley that actually drew up the plan, and kind of go over the pros and the cons with why it was done where it's done with the Parks Board, so that they can have some interchange back and forth and understand why it was done, and maybe, it's possible that there are good reasons who all say that, the way the plan is the way it should be. It's also possible that Winningham and Fradley will hear some things that they have not heard before and will adjust it the other way to account for that. So I just think that would be a good idea to have
Well,
at one of their
Steve,
upcoming meetings, have that
William and
conversation.
Bradley has only done what we told them to do.
Well,
Yeah.
I don't know, Freddie.
I don't know how
because-
they got this direction.
Yeah, I'm not
I'm a
sure
little
where that-
question on the direction we're looking at.
Yeah.
I mean, probably December can tell us a little bit more, but, it's a little different than I remember also. But I mean, like everybody's saying, I'm sure there's reasons behind how and where we got to where we're at, but this is the first time I've seen this layout.
Yeah.
Well, the
December.
only-
I mean, the rest of it. I've seen the
only-
park and the pavilion and the
Let me-
parking
let
lot.
me-
That whole area I remember, but the rest of this I don't.
Yeah, it looks a little different. Looks a little different.
You had two ball fields, one up against 190th over to here, then you had another one here.
Correct.
But then again, right in this corner right here, you got some of the biggest cypress trees there is.
Right.
Do you
No,
wanna
Freddie,
go in and
I
tear
think
them out?
I think that's a valid point. That's what I'm saying, is that there may be very valid reasons why it was changed.
Yeah.
So I'm not, I don't think there's anybody trying to thwart anybody's plans here. But I think what's missing is that element of communication
Well, that-
to understand why the changes were made, because it's different. And December, maybe you can kind of give us a little bit of history, background, what's about the changes.
Thanks, everybody. I'm December Haynes, Parks, Recreation, and Open Space Coordinator. With regard to the sections of ball fields that you're looking at, Freddie's allusion to the cypress trees that are in that area, the way that this has been laid out specifically was to address what we can and what we can get done now. We have grant funding to do, and there was some commitment to try to see if we could get any kind of area for ball fields in there. Having said that, like Freddie said, the original configuration of the ball fields, it was going to be all one large rectangle, just like Newell had said. But the money to do that is likely not sufficient. As we've seen now, we've got a base bid that's before you tonight, and then the two ad alternates that where we tried to put some open space practice fields in there by getting some work done to clear them and fill them and grade them and such. So that's why you see portions of the larger rectangle. If we had the money to do it all right now, I'm sure we would have gone right back to the advisory boards to ask them their preferences about that cypress head, because before we go and bulldoze down any of the cypress trees or any of the trees that we knew we wanted to keep, we really need to have a decision with all of the input available. As far as the other little piece up by Griffin Road, if you guys will all recall, and if the Parks Board members will also recall, there used to be a fitness trail element there. That was one of the things that helped us qualify for the grant in the first place. Before we took, right, that's right, right, okay, good. So this became an empty space, but there were never any trees planted there, and there were never any trees showing on the plans there, so it just became an empty space that was crowned in the middle. When we were talking about trying to provide some intermediate area for ball fields, the idea was take that space that is already largely clear, grade it, and that could be a temporary area for ball field future development. Nothing that's in the current ad alternates to the bid would so construct that a change couldn't be made later on. So as far as the configuration of the restroom, the shelter, and the playground, what you see there, and when I say playground, I'm saying the area where the play equipment is going to be, those things are as close to the configuration as the joint advisory boards gave us. So in terms of the position of the pavilion and the restroom, you didn't want one blocking the view of the other to the ball fields that'll be there. They wanted the playground to be off to the east of that, all of that. And then as far as the drainage is concerned, and Freddie alluded to this, but the way that the elements are constructed is to make most available use of access for ADA accessibility as well as to the water elements. So, for instance, the grant that is going to pay for that wash rack and some of the trail elements and the equestrian trailer parking came before the Parks Board without, without us saying, we want the wash rack to be here. And we stuck the wash rack in there because they asked where it would make most sense, and most sense would be close to where people are going to be finished riding their horses, loading back up in their trailers, and close to water. So that's where, okay, I'm going to go away now unless you have any questions.
Actually, just step
I think I
aside
might
if you
actually
would.
step out of the room. It looks dangerous.
She is incorrect on the wash rack, equestrian parking. The equestrian parking is down at the south end where the rink is going to go and has been already placed there. That's where the wash rack belongs, not there. Not where this parking for cars becomes an equestrian parking lot. Trailers with horses are going to park out on 190th. That was the plan all along, are down by the rink when it is built. That is what the board said, and that's exactly what I remember. And that's where the was put on the plans. So get rid of the wash rack and any equestrian parking inside the park, because those are for cars. There is no equestrian parking in there. Those are automobile parking spaces, not equestrian parking spaces. This is not going to become another equestrian park like Sunshine Ranches has. It's going to have a work rink down at the bottom. It's going to have a trail that can be ridden, multi-purpose trail. It is not going to be a horse park. It is going to have a couple of ball fields in it. Play fields, multi-purpose play fields. It's not going to have a baseball field in it laid
Baseball.
out. It's not going to have a empty space grass that they can play on. That's it. It is not going to be equestrian park. Thank you.
Vice Mayor, if I may, I'd like to make a motion to make a little modification of this, if I may. I'd like to go back. I don't have a problem. I believe everybody's on board except for the wash ring or whatever, but the rest of the parking lot that's already in place, the pavilion, the bathrooms and all that is in play. I believe that the ring where it was in the back corner needs to go back where it was. And the ball fields, which I don't believe will affect this bid at all, if I'm not incorrect. We may want to ask him. But, I'd like to make a motion to go back to the layout we had, except from what we're doing now with the pavilion and the bathrooms and all that, and moves the wash rings and everything else the way it was. I don't know who approved it. I don't remember seeing this change come before us and us approving it in this format or this way. And now everything literally got moved majorly. So if we can do with what the Parks Board had initially done, would be greatly appreciated. And we can still approve this and move forward in that format, I believe. I think Freddie's got something to
Doug,
say.
there's no ring going in, period. I don't
I
know where you
understand.
talk about moving a ring. We don't have a ring on.
But it looks like up in this right-hand corner that that's where it's supposed to go.
Where?
No, that's
What is that?
just a field. It's just a field.
There's no ring. There's no ring. We haven't even talked about a ring, other than the one that they said they wanted on the south end, and that's where it's on look at your original plans. The whole plan is here if you want to look at it. It's still on the south end. So somebody's saying.
Okay, well, it just looks different on here, but I would say go back to what the Parks Board had originally approved and what we'd seen in the past. And
Yeah, I think, along those same lines, I think we all agree pretty closely on this northwest corner, that it's correct. And I think that's that's also the area that needs to be worked on immediately. So I just,
aside from the wash rack part.
Aside from the wash rack. right. I think that should be our focus on approving that one small portion of it and moving on, because. I'm good.
Vice Mayor, if I may.
Yes, absolutely.
The wash rack and the, I guess it looks like some sort of a holding area, that's all future. That's not none of that's being contemplated right now. I think it's just placed there
So that we,
so that we have
Yeah.
a place to,
right.
for lack of a better way of saying it, that it has to get, had to go somewhere. I don't recall any horse trailer parking or a road getting to the south ring. We're only, you know, I don't recall that anywhere, so I don't know where that idea is suddenly coming from. We knew the area in yellow that we have in our small version, I think that's what we're approving tonight. The only thing that we're going to be looking at probably modifying the motion is to authorize the raising of the playfield with extra fill, another 6 inches. We need to move forward with this portion of it. The 2 ball fields, I think that's up for future consideration, and I highly recommend that the Parks Board be the one to make that decision with us.
Send it back to them.
Yeah, I agree with him
Move
on that.
forward
But
with it.
I don't see, since additive 1 and additive 2 were removed, and we're only discussing this one portion of it.
Right.
We're really kind of talking about something that's not going to take place yet, or not even remotely close. This is more like I look at it as an artist's rendering at this point, or an architect's rendering, because there's no construction plans for that. We're not approving at this point, you know, for that. So we need to have the Parks Board go back with what we have approved and then work from there. I think that's our best move at this point, because there's a lot of speculation, and if you do this, you do that, and I think it's getting a little out of hand.
Right, I agree with you, and the only thing I would add, as I said before, is I think that the architects need to be involved in that conversation so that everybody,
The engineer, yeah, the engineer.
and the
yeah.
engineer, right?
I concur.
So my understanding, Steve, and Keith is here now, the motion that I made on the floor would be that we move ahead with this bid with the assumption that some of the figures can be moved around. I mean, when I say figures, I'm talking about money figures.
Right.
That's my motion.
And then it's going to go back before the board?
Do we have to do that specifically?
No, this isn't just a pot of money that you're approving. You know, they actually bid specific components. Now, if they're telling you, which this gentleman did, that the raising of the property, you know, it won't cost you anything because it's your fill, as long as your engineer says it's okay, that's perfect. There's nothing wrong with that. But he bid a specific job, just like the other 2 vendors bid a specific job. It's not just saying, okay, we have 100,000, we'll get back to you and tell you what we want to do. Andy, I know you want to add something.
No, the only thing that I would add to that is there are components in here that will not be needed. For example, the fill, which is in here, if we don't need to bring the fill in, obviously, we're not going to bring it in, we're not going to have that expense.